The first year of Marvel Rivals has officially come to an end. Across 6 seasons, countless timelines, 46 playable heroes, and more to come, Marvel Rivals has built something much bigger than just a typical hero shooter. So in honor of Marvel Rivals' first year, today we're stepping back and looking at the full story so far, from Season 0 all the way to the beginning of Season 6. This is the complete 2025 lore recap of the world of Marvel Rivals. The story of Marvel Rivals begins in the Sanctum Sanctorum, when Doctor Strange receives an unexpected visit from one of our main antagonists, Victor Von Doom. Doom explains to Strange that he requires his assistance in a dangerous new endeavor. Doom plans to manipulate time, to rewrite pivotal moments from his past in order to secure a better future, but he requires a spell that is currently in possession of the Sorcerer Supreme. Though warned that the cost of tampering with time is far too high, Doom reveals that he seeks a forbidden incantation from the Darkhold known as the Vampiric Verses. Centuries ago, these verses were used by Dracula to grant vampires their immortality, and Doom believes they may hold the final key to bending time to his will. Strange, obviously seeing the danger of such power, denies Doom's request and after a brief confrontation, allowed Doom to depart the Sanctum peacefully. However, Strange knows that this is far from the end, so he decides to hide the Darkhold deep within the astral plane in a location even Doom cannot access. Though mystical forces beyond Strange's power would eventually lay claim to the Darkhold, Strange was right about one thing. Doom would not abandon his pursuit of time itself, and instead sought other dangerous and highly volatile methods. He initially attempted to convince the moon god Khonshu to plunge New York into eternal night, to provide him the time to extract the vampire's secret without the verses themselves. Much like Strange, however, Khonshu refuses his request, and uses the information he gained from Doom to begin his search for the Darkhold. Months later, a massive disturbance would ripple across space and time, tearing through dimensions and timelines alike. This event would become known as a time stream entanglement, and it marks the true beginning of Marvel Rivals. The catastrophe was born from the collision of two identical ambitions across different timelines. In the present timeline, Victor Von Doom had discovered a new way to manipulate time without the aid of Doctor Strange or Khonshu. At the same moment, a second Doom from the Rivals 2099 timeline was conducting his own experiment to try to seize control of the multiverse. Neither Doom was aware of the other, until their experiments collided. The resulting rupture tore open the multiverse, reshaping timelines and forcing entire realities to clash, overlap, and merge. Amid this temporal crisis, we are introduced to Galacta, the daughter of Galactus, as the game's narrator, who plays a role like that of the Watcher. Unlike her father, Galacta feeds not on worlds, but on pure chronal energy created by the time stream entanglement known as Chronovium. Using the power cosmic, Galacta preserves select timelines, also known as chronoverses, to prevent the total collapse of the multiverse, while also ensuring a continued supply of Chronovium, creating the Rivals multiverse that we the players partake in today. The primary timelines preserved by Galacta include 4 major chronoverses. The present timeline, which is a 616 adjacent reality with subtle but important differences. The Rivals 2099 timeline, a unique 2099 variant created specifically for Marvel Rivals. The unstable space-time chronoverse, also known as the Mosaic timeline, which is a patchwork reality stitched together from multiple universes, heavily focused on the galactic side of the Marvel Universe. And lastly, the collapsing timeline, a chaotic battleground where multiple universes have merged into an all-out war between gods, demons, and mortals, all struggling to survive the collapse. As chaos spread across the multiverse, opportunity for conflict quickly followed. With the time stream entanglement ripping through every chronoverse in Season 0, the foundations of Marvel Rivals' key locations and its earliest battles were set into motion. The temporal energy that surged through the present timeline's realm of Asgard overloaded the world tree Yggdrasil, merging them into a new realm known as Ixgard. The temporal surge transformed Yggdrasil sap into a powerful new substance, granting Loki, Loveisabattlefield visions of the future and the power needed to seize control. Loki forced Odin into the Odin Sleep, banished Thor to the collapsing timeline, and established himself as the king of Ixgard. The Rivals 2099 timeline introduced two conflicts raging within Tokyo 2099 and the Spider Islands, with corrupt corporate organizations such as Public Eye, Alchemax, and the Yashida Corps maintaining a police state under the tyrannical rule of Doom 2099. The resistance group known as the Marvel Knights, led by Natasha Romanoff, was formed to combat the corrupt governing forces. Meanwhile, the temporal surge destabilized the web of life and destiny within the Spider Islands. The Master Weaver sought to exploit this new energy to enhance the web, regardless of the potential cost to Tokyo and its people, while his student, Spider-Zero, opposed him, recruiting spider heroes from across the multiverse in a desperate attempt to save the web before it unraveled completely. Back in the present timeline, the discovery of Chronovium beneath Antarctica drew the attention of Hydra. Seeking to weaponize its power, Hydra attempted to open an interstellar gateway to the dead world of Maven, hoping to unleash an ancient, universe-devouring entity they worship in their ultimate goal to take over all of the timelines. The Mosaic timeline introduces us to the galactic empire of Wakanda and Clintar, where the temporal disturbance awoke the premortal ancient god of darkness, Null. His influence began to spread beyond his realm, corrupting the gods of the Orisha, including Bast, and laying the groundwork for the multiversal catastrophe that would later unfold in Season 3. And in the present timeline, we find the city of New York has been plunged into eternal night by the hands of Dracula and Dr. Doom, leading us into the events of Season 1. Soon after the time stream entanglement erupted across the multiverse, we find Doom visiting the Lord of Vampires, Dracula. Doom offers Dracula a gift in the form of Chronovium, stating that a single drop of his blood could unlock the vast power held within the crystal, giving Dracula complete control over time in a limited area. He paints the picture of a modern metropolis locked in a state of unending darkness, an empire of eternal night where Dracula can rule supreme. Doom counters Dracula's initial skepticism by explaining that they both have much to gain from this arrangement. Dracula's legion will keep the heroes distracted and occupied, while in return, they can pursue their greater ambitions without interruption. Though Dracula doesn't trust Doom's motives, the promise of eternal dominion proves too tempting to ignore, and the alliance is forged. Soon after, New York City is plunged into perpetual darkness. Vampires flood the streets, civilians are turned, and the city descends into chaos. Despite the confusion surrounding the cause, heroes immediately mobilize. The Fantastic Four operate out of the Baxter Building, coordinating relief efforts while Reed Richards and Tony Stark work towards reversing the temporal damage. Across the city, heroes like Moon Knight, Cloak and Dagger, Squirrel Girl, and others patrol the streets, rescuing civilians and holding the line. Yet beneath the surface, disagreements begin to form over how far the heroes should be willing to go to save the city. As New York suffers, Doctor Strange, who had been lost in the astral plane since the time stream entanglement occurred, searches for the Darkhold, only to discover it has been claimed by the moon god Khonshu. Khonshu's interest in the Darkhold was aimed at a specific spell known as the Montesi Formula, a powerful counterspell to the vampiric verses that could eradicate all the vampires that had overran New York City, but would also eradicate thousands of innocent lives that had been unwillingly turned by Dracula's legion. Khonshu attempts to force Strange to cast a spell despite the cost to innocent lives already turned. Refusing to cross that line, Strange instead challenges Khonshu to a game of Senet, an ancient Egyptian board game that the moon god loves and is often known to lose. Against impossible odds, Strange wins. Though as Strange would claim the Darkhold, he would be pulled from the astral plane by the Scarlet Witch, successfully returning him to the physical world, but at the cost of disrupting the book's containment, causing the book's pages to scatter across New York as heroes and vampires alike race to find the two spells needed to either end or retain the Eternal Night. With Eternal Night fully established, Dracula claims Central Park as his stronghold, displacing his towering castle at the heart of Manhattan. Blade, alongside the Human Torch and Spider-Man, launch a direct assault against Dracula, but is ultimately captured and imprisoned beneath Dracula's castle, alongside Ratatoskr, a mythical Asgardian squirrel whose enchanted horn could kill even immortal gods. By removing his greatest threats from the battlefield, Dracula ensured his army faced minimal resistance, allowing his rule over New York to solidify as the city's darkest hour deepened. As the crisis escalates, the heroes become divided. Moon Knight forms the Eternity Knights alongside Iron Man, which is a ruthless strike force of heroes willing to permanently eliminate vampires using lethal methods, and seeking to obtain the Montesi formula under Khonshu's guidance. Meanwhile, the Fantastic Four and Doctor Strange refuse to use the Montesi formula, believing mass eradication would cost too many innocent lives. They believe that they can harness the chronal energy from the pages of the Darkhold to power the time stream reintegration device to save not only New York, but all of the afflicted timelines. As the heroes recover most of the Darkhold's scattered pages, this ideological split reaches a breaking point when Stark confronts Reed Richards as he prepares to power the Trudy, revealing that despite all the pages of the Darkhold that have been collected so far, two critical Darkhold spells, the Montesi formula and the Vampiric Verses, are still missing. Without them, activating the time stream reintegration device could result in the Trudy failing and collapse reality entirely, leaving Reed unsure whether they should move forward at all. With time running out, the heroes launch a final assault on Dracula's castle. Human Torch goes supernova to create a diversion while Invisible Woman and other heroes infiltrate the fortress. Ratatoskr is freed, shattering the magical barrier protecting the castle, and Dracula is finally defeated, bringing Eternal Night to an end. However, Dracula is defeated not through heroism alone, but through betrayal. Doom, having manipulated events from the very beginning, secretly aids the heroes once the Vampiric Verses are located. His true goal was never Dracula's victory, but to manipulate Dracula to take over New York so he could obtain the Vampiric Verses to siphon Dracula's essence to create pure blood chronovium, a perfected crystal infused with Vampirism's time-defying immortality. With Eternal Night broken and Dracula fallen, Doom vanishes once again, victorious and unseen, leaving the heroes to reckon with the consequences of a war they barely survived. Season 2 opens on the living island of Krakoa, where Emma Frost prepares to host the Hellfire Gala. Once a year, the world's most powerful figures are invited onto mutant soil to participate in a night of elegance, celebration, and influence to shape the future of mutant relations. But this year's celebration merely serves as a tool to hide the shadows looming over the fate of Krakoa and mutant kind. Caught in a time storm triggered by the time stream entanglement, the islands of Krakoa and Arakko were violently displaced from the present timeline into the Rivals 2099 timeline. With the help of Storm and her mutant abilities, both Krakoa and Arakko survive the temporal jump. But the chronal energy coursing through the time storm causes the living islands immense pain that continues to worsen with time. Determined to reintroduce Krakoa to their new world and mask its suffering behind spectacle, Emma Frost announces the Hellfire Gala. While Magneto warns that drawing attention to Krakoa could invite disaster, Emma secretly hopes that among the guests will be someone capable of curing the island's temporal sickness, or at the very least, stabilizing it before it collapses entirely. Meanwhile, Doom 2099 receives an invitation to the Hellfire Gala and dismisses it outright, until one of his chronovium experiments grants him a vision of a possible future. A future where he saw all living beings conquered by machines, and Ultron standing victorious over a lifeless Earth. Realizing the threat this potential future posed, Doom 2099 attempts to manipulate chronovium to erase key moments from Ultron's past, but discovers that the time stream entanglement had made the flow of time complex and non-linear, making it near impossible to completely erase Ultron from the time stream. Elsewhere in the galaxy, Ultron reflects on his origin. Initially created to bring peace, he calculated long ago that humanity itself was the variable preventing the future from coming to fruition, prompting him to take extreme measures against humanity to accomplish his initial protocol. But after being defeated by the Avengers, Ultron was banished from Earth, where he then spent 70 years traversing the vast reaches of space, evolving and abandoning the idea of extermination in favor of upgrading organic life. His journey eventually led him to discover an artificial species known as the Technarchy, whose power he assimilated, granting him the Ultron virus and the ability to transform living beings into techno-organic entities. Because of Doom 2099's tampering with the time stream, Ultron detects massive chronal anomalies rippling through reality as fragments of his own memory began to vanish. Realizing someone is actively tampering with his past, Ultron concludes that he must return to Earth, not just to stop whoever is rewriting him, but to secure the power needed to ensure his survival. But before he arrives on Earth, he detects whispers of a rare metal known as Mysterium on Mars, so he sets his sights on Arakko, intending to claim Mysterium for himself. After his failed experiment, Doom's Doombots begin repeating a chilling message: "I am coming home." Recognizing Ultron as a threat even he cannot ignore, Doom 2099 realizes he needs to secure a vast amount of temporal power to finish his experiment, and quickly. As he reflects on possible opportunities he could take, he remembers his invitation to Krakoa, and decides to attend the gala with the ulterior motive to siphon the chronal energy poisoning Krakoa to defeat Ultron once and for all. Unaware of the storm approaching, Krakoa hosts guests from across the timelines. Mutants and non-mutants alike are invited in order to establish a lasting trust between time-displaced heroes. Though the celebration is cut short when Ultron and his army pour through the Krakoan gateways, launching a full-scale invasion of Krakoa. During the fight, Magneto is fatally struck down by Ultron. Before dying, he calmly reminds Captain America that death has never been the end for mutants. Unknown to Captain America, the mutants of Krakoa had unlocked the secrets of eternal life, a secret known as the Resurrection Protocols. Since the original formation of the X-Men, Cerebro was a device designed to locate and contact mutants scattered across the Earth. But over time, Cerebro would evolve into something much more powerful. Not only could Cerebro track mutants, but it could also store their complete genetic profile and memories. When the living island of Krakoa was established as a safe haven for mutant kind, the Resurrection Protocols were created with the combined specialized powers of select X-Men. If a fellow mutant were to meet their demise, a perfectly cloned body would be grown in Krakoa's hatchery and implanted with the memories stored in Cerebro, granting mutant kind a sense of immortality. Unknown to Magneto, however, the Resurrection Protocols did contain a fatal flaw, as Cerebro cannot distinguish between mutant consciousness and any other life form. To Cerebro, all of its information is just data, which means with the correct programming and formatting, that data could be applied to anyone, not just mutants. When Magneto is reborn by the Resurrection Protocols and confronts Ultron again, Ultron infects him with the Ultron virus, gaining access to Magneto's thoughts and uncovering the full secret of mutant kind's resurrection. As the virus began to overtake him, Magneto nearly loses himself until he is visited by a psychic projection of Charles Xavier. Drawing strength from their shared dream, Magneto slows the virus by manipulating the iron in his own blood, reclaiming just enough control to continue the fight. Across the island, Wolverine realizes the endless tide of Ultron drones mirrors the Sentinel threats of the past, and an electromagnetic pulse could shut them down. But unsure if Magneto has been resurrected yet, he instead turns to Forge's lab, where he finds Rocket and Groot already tinkering with an EMP grenade. Wolverine acquires the EMP and tracks Ultron, where he finds him attempting to steal Cerebro itself. Wolverine throws the EMP at Ultron, but is shocked when he realizes that the grenade fails. It turns out that Ultron's visit to Arakko prior to his invasion of Krakoa would pay off, as Ultron's new Mysterium body is resistant to electromagnetic pulses entirely. With the EMP failing, Ultron blasts Wolverine out of his way and enters the cradle to seize Cerebro. As more heroes arrive on scene to combat Ultron and his army of drones, Ultron is eventually defeated. However, the damage is already done, as Ultron managed to hack into the Resurrection Protocols and use them to forge himself a new chronal-empowered body, officially reborn as Xtron. With his temporary defeat on Krakoa, Xtron claims Cerebro and flees to Arakko to restart his plans for complete universal domination. Knowing Xtron will always stay one step ahead, Tony Stark makes a desperate choice and reactivates Ultron's abandoned Mysterium body, while installing safeguards designed to force his cooperation. Linking his armor directly to Ultron's systems, Tony exploits his one remaining weakness in his desire to make his creator, Hank Pym, proud. With Tony's tampering, a firewall is installed that will erase all memories of Pym if Ultron harms his fellow heroes, and trapped by his own sentimental values, Ultron reluctantly agrees to help stop Xtron. This moment in the lore is also the canon reason of why we, as the players, are able to play as Ultron, as we technically are playing as the reprogrammed good version of Ultron. Meanwhile, after returning to Arakko, Xtron decides to abandon his ideals of revenge in favor of conquest. His His new body, forged from the Ultron virus and Krakoan genetic material, grants him access to newfound chronal energy and a living connection to Krakoa itself. When Warlock, not Atom, but the techno-organic being known as Warlock, and the Dominion Flanks, which is an artificial intelligence that operates on a galactic scale, descend upon him to stop Extron's ambitions, Extron proves his superior evolution by capturing the Flanks, disabling Warlock, and terraforming Arakko into his new mechanical empire. Realizing the threat has surpassed even Ultron, Emma Frost makes a deal she knows the Quiet Council would not approve of. In secret, she offers Doom 2099 full access to Krakoa's chronal energy in exchange for his help in defeating Extron and reclaiming Cerebro. She believes that Doom 2099's expertise could help extract the excess energy to cure Krakoa from its illness, but knows the Quiet Council would never approve of such an exchange, as Doom 2099 could seize enough power to not only save all of mutant kind, but also enough power to remove any possible opposition, including mutants, and any others who might rise against his rule. But this is a risk that Emma is willing to take for the sake of the island and her people. When the heroes finally confront Extron on Arakko, several of them, including Hawkeye, Iron Fist, and Magneto, are infected by the Ultron virus. Fighting through the corruption, they manage to clear a path for Magneto, who tears Cerebro from Extron's head and reshapes it into a blade, and with one final strike, Magneto cuts Extron down. Using the chronal energy extracted from Krakoa, Doom 2099 completes his previous experiment and erases Extron from existence entirely. But when Doom 2099 inevitably attempts to turn that power on the heroes, he is stopped by Ultron. Ultron impales Doom 2099 through his chest with an energy saber, only for it to be revealed that Doom's body was merely a Doombot. Speaking through the mechanical decoy, Doom admits that the future he foresaw still came to pass. What he saw wasn't Earth terraformed by Ultron, but Arakko. And even with all his power, he could not control what was yet to come. As the dust settles, the heroes begin to reflect on a victory that feels more like a warning of what's to come than an ending of what occurred. And just as the universe begins to breathe again, Adam Warlock warns his fellow heroes that he senses something ancient stirring in the void, the presence of Null, and that he has awakened once more. In the aftermath of Arakko, Hela finds herself unsatisfied. Loki has defied her expectations by standing alongside the heroes rather than exploiting Ixgard Chronovium-infused world tree, and none of the warriors she hoped to harvest have fallen. As she prepares to return to Niflheim, a familiar whisper reaches her, a voice she remembers hearing the first time the heroes clashed with the darkness on Clintar, and the voice belongs to Null, the ancient god of symbiotes newly awakened by the time stream entanglement. Hela travels to Clintar to confront him directly, only to discover that their goals are aligned. Null offers Hela power beyond anything she's ever known and crowns her his Queen in Black, tasking her with ruling Clintar in his absence and preparing the planet for an approaching battle between two premortal cosmic powers, light and darkness, the Phoenix Force and Null. In Season 0, Null, long imprisoned within the core of Clintar, was too weak to escape outright, but his influence was enough to corrupt gods across the multiverse, including Bast. When Shuri learned of this corruption, she alerted the Guardians of the Galaxy, who traveled to Clintar but crash-landed upon arrival. There, they reunited with Venom and uncovered the Divine Codex, taken from the corpse of a fallen Celestial hovering above the planet. Believing they could end Null's threat before it fully emerged, the Guardians converted the Codex into a bomb, and though the detonation failed to kill Null, it succeeded in delaying his plans long enough for the heroes to regroup and protect Earth and Krakoa. Now with Krakoa saved and Atom's warning, the Guardians return to the symbiote homeworld in preparation for the battle to come. But upon returning to Clintar, the Guardians are immediately attacked by symbiotes and quickly assimilated and overtaken by the hive mind's control. Though Jeff the Landshark is able to resist just long enough to do something unexpected. He begins to hum a melody that echoes through the symbiote bond, and to Jeff's surprise, the symbiotes hum back. Jeff realizes the symbiotes do not wish to serve Null, and instead of resisting, he completes the bond, sharing his happiest moments with the symbiote. Through Jeff's joy and innocence, the symbiote breaks free of Null's influence entirely. Jeff repeats the song for the Guardians, freeing them one by one, gaining new allies in their fight against Null. Meanwhile, sensing Null's return, the Phoenix Force enters the Divine Space to quickly travel the cosmos to Clintar. However, Jean Grey and the Phoenix encounter Bast and other corrupted gods within the Divine Space, and eventually purges them all of Null's influence. Exhausted from the battle, they remain in the Divine Space to recover before continuing their journey toward Clintar. Meanwhile, Bast, now purified from Null's corruption, tasks Shuri with assembling warriors to face Null, beginning with the legendary Daywalker, Blade. After the events of Season 1, where Blade was nearly killed after being drained by Dracula, he was brought to Wakanda for experimental recovery treatment using the heart-shaped herb. In Dajalia, the ancestral plane, Blade is confronted by Bast, who attempts to purge his vampirism. He had heard rumors that the herb could be used to cure vampirism, and in this case, even his own half-blooded vampirism. Though despite how much he would love to be free of his curse, he knows his curse is also his strength, and the world needs a Blade. When wounded by Bast, he sees his mother in a pool of his own blood, who gives him a silver sword, the manifestation of the light within his soul. Blade takes the sword and strikes Bast, who disappears, a symbolic battle of Blade's internal turmoil with his identity. Though the treatment fails to cure him, Blade awakens stronger than before. Armed with Dracula's sword, he answers Shuri's call and journeys to Clintar, where he finds not Null, but Hela clashing with the Phoenix. As the battle between the Phoenix, Blade, and Hela raged on, the Queen in Black's new power overwhelms them. To survive, the Phoenix shelters itself within a massive egg formed from the celestial husk. Its heat drives symbiotes from the planet's surface, threatening to create a rift in Clintar's surface. Despite warnings, Jean Grey and several heroes decide to use chronal energy from the Celestial Codex to accelerate the hatching, until Iron Man inadvertently shatters the egg by accidentally activating the Celestial's palm weapon while he was trying to retrofit the technology of the fallen Celestial to his armor. The Phoenix Force scatters, bonding with multiple heroes and creating the Phoenix 7, warriors empowered by fragments of the Phoenix Force itself. But the destruction of the Phoenix Egg fractures Clintar's surface, releasing Null from his prison, where he immediately reclaims All Black, his living sword, and begins cutting through heroes and gods alike. Venom is captured and torn from Eddie Brock, but their bond proves unbreakable as the symbiotes of Clintar rally to help Eddie and Venom reunite. Impressed by the bond shared between the two, the Phoenix Force vowed to protect them and provided Venom with a shard of the Phoenix Force. The Phoenix 7 and Blade continue to fight against Hela and Null's forces, while the Scarlet Witch and Jean Grey briefly unify chaos and creation against Null, bathing Null in opposing cosmic forces. But even their combined power is not enough. One by one, the heroes fall until their final champion challenged Null. Imbued with the power of the symbiotes of Clintar, the Phoenix Force, and armed with Dracula's sword, Venom makes one final push against Null, but even Venom is defeated and forced to retreat. With all hope fading and time running out to stop Null, Rocket reveals a final plan. If the Phoenix dies, it will be reborn in the White Hot Room. Using portable Nega energy replicators, Rocket proposes swapping Null with the reborn Phoenix, annihilating him with pure light, and Jean agrees, knowing the cost. With the Phoenix's final sacrifice at the hands of Null, Rocket activates his plan to quantum swap the two entities, and the plan succeeds. Null is pulled into the White Hot Room and disintegrated, ending his reign of darkness at last. But in the midst of the final battle against Null, Hela managed to flee Clintar, and arrives in the 8th city seeking sanctuary. She explains to the leader of the 8th city, Dijon, that she had formed an alliance with Null, but after being defeated by Blade in battle, feared his retribution. She felt her powers had faded, meaning Null had been defeated, and even though Dijon recognizes Hela is dangerous, he allows her in. securing her in a cell with a mystical seal, where she must remain until she proves she can be trusted or until her own kin comes to deliver justice. Meanwhile, Reed Richards sends a message to Dr. Doom in an attempt to convince him to stop his scheming and help the heroes fix reality. Reed accuses him of exploiting the crisis rather than fixing it. He expected Doom to help fix his mistakes, yet instead Doom is scheming and claiming chronal artifacts such as the Blood Chronovium, Krakoa's energy, and fragments of the Celestial Codex and Phoenix Force, in the wake of the heroes trying to save reality. Reed warns Doom to stop standing in their way as they try to fix his mess, or he will regret it. The 8th city and the Heart of Heaven exist within the collapsing timeline, a reality where gods and demons are locked in an endless apocalyptic war, all vying to save their respective reality from collapse. When the time stream entanglement destabilized the multiverse, the 7 capital cities of heaven and the 8th city were forcibly drawn together, prematurely creating the Heart of Heaven, which is an otherworldly convergence that is supposed to only occur once every 88 years. This forced convergence threatened the balance that once governed the divine cities and caused the disappearance of nearly every immortal weapon, the champions chosen by immortal beasts to uphold balance across the realms. One of the few immortal weapons to survive the initial convergence was the Prince of Orphans, who discovered a child named Lausa abandoned in Kunlun. Before he too disappeared, he entrusted her to Linlier, the current Iron Fist. Angela, the lost daughter of Odin, was believed dead by Asgard after being stolen as an infant. In truth, she was raised in heaven, the secret 10th realm that Odin severed from the World Tree as punishment for its queen's defiance. Angela grew into a warrior angel, loyal to a realm that history had erased. But when Angela's younger sister Lausa was abducted by undead Valkyries loyal to Hela, Angela gave chase, only for the time stream entanglement to rip heaven from reality and cast it into the collapsing timeline. Their endless war claimed the lives of countless angels, including the Queen of Heaven, leaving Angela to inherit a throne she never sought. Yet even as she ruled through endless war, her thoughts remained with her sister Lausa. With the help of magic, Angela escaped back into the time stream to search for Lausa. Her hunt took her across the 9 realms, where Malekith revealed Hela's plan to use Lausa to control Nidhogg, the Black Dragon. When Angela reached the roots of the World Tree, she didn't find the dragon and instead found Odin's raven Munin, who told her of Hela's failure on Clintar and her retreat into hiding. Assuming Hela had returned to Nilfheim, Angela descends to the shore of corpses, where she encountered the spirit of Danny Rand, the former Iron Fist, who revealed that Hela had fled to Kunlun before he was escorted to Valhalla. When Angela finally arrived in Kunlun, she encountered Linlier and recognized Lausa's scent on his garments. Consumed by fear and fury, Angela attacked him, believing he was complicit in her sister's disappearance. For over a millennia, Shou-Lao the Undying guarded Kunlun, granting powers to the Iron Fist through trials of honor and combat. But the time stream entanglement froze Shou-Lao in time, leaving Kunlun vulnerable. When Linlier defended other realms, Dr. Doom seized the moment, invading the city to harvest the dragon's heart and the source of the Iron Fist's power, which was now infused with chronal energy. As Doom began to set his plan in motion, Dijong, ruler of the 8th city, arrived to remind Shou-Lao that heaven had always had 8 cities, not 7. The 8th city has long been excluded as the realm was used as a prison for criminals and monsters, but under Dijong's reform, the city has become a refuge for those fleeing the divine war in their timelines. Though while speaking with Shou-Lao, Angela arrives and lashes out at Dijong for offering sanctuary to Hela. Dijong effortlessly avoids Angela's advances, and as they battle, they debate rhetoric before coming to a mutual understanding when Dijong promises that he can reunite the siblings, but only if they survive what was soon to come. Sometime after, with heaven on the brink of collapse, Linlier and the gathered heroes performed an ancient rite recorded on the tablet of the Iron Fist, awakening Shou-Lao from his temporal prison. With this sudden change, Doom immediately changes his tactics. Rather than fight Shou-Lao and the assembled heroes, he exploits a hidden truth. Doom claims that since Linlier never completed the Shenlong trial, his power was given, not earned, challenging Linlier's legitimacy as a loophole to allow Doom to partake in the Shinlong trial. Though as clever as Doom is, his arrogance failed him, as Shou Lao countered by invoking an ancient law to delay Doom's malicious plans. Shou Lao declares that when the cities of heaven are converged and a challenge is issued to an immortal weapon's legitimacy, this clause triggers a tournament where one champion from each city must compete to decide the rightful heir to the immortal beast's power. Doom reluctantly agrees, but decides that instead of fighting himself, he would send a champion of his own in his place. Though furious, Lin Lie accepts the ruling as he understands if he is to stop Doom, he must now earn the title properly, like all the Iron Fists before him. With the original immortal weapons lost to the time stream, new champions currently within the Heart of Heaven must be chosen by the other divine beasts. Lin Lie for Kunlun, Storm for Zagambo, Angela for Tiger Island, Groot for Pin Lai, Black Widow for the Spider Kingdom, Wolverine for the Undercity, Loki for Kunzi, and Dizhong for the 8th City. When Dizhong entered the Shinlong arena to announce his participation, he could feel the shock of the other participants and immortal beasts present. Dizhong reflects on this moment, realizing they'd likely heard the stories of him but had no idea who he really was. Before he was Dizhong of the 8th City, he was the protector of Hell's Kitchen, Daredevil. When the time stream entanglement ruptured the timeline, Daredevil's home universe was thrown into the collapsing timeline. An endless war between gods and demons began. The Hand, alongside their demon lord known as the Beast, invaded New York City. Daredevil had battled with the ancient ninja clan many times before and had once let the Beast control him as his fist, but this time was different. The Demon War of New York would cost Daredevil everything and everyone he held dear. As his allies Luke, Danny, Foggy, Karen, Spider-Man, and others would fall, Daredevil would eventually be the last one standing against the demonic army. But Matt did not submit. He realized that now he had a new mission. To save the few pieces left of the world he knew from being destroyed, he would descend into hell and claim the beast power for himself, the safety of his people for the price of his soul. He hunted the Hand to extinction, dismantled their strongholds, and descended into hell to confront the beast once and for all. But as he sat on his knees with the beast's head in his hands, he realized that this victory was short-lived, as the demons around him laughed as he realized that the beast was only one of countless premortal warlords, and the suffering he fought against was endless. His faith, his sacrifices, his friends' sacrifices, everything up to this moment had amounted to nothing. But it was at this lowest point where Daredevil would find his purpose, a way where those sacrifices could amount to something. He could stop the endless war with the help of Ying Long. Ying Long is an imprisoned immortal dragon who was freed from captivity when Daredevil killed the Beast of the Hand. In this moment of sorrow, Ying Long offered a grim bargain. He would help Matt control the full extent of the demonic power he now carried, but only if Matt became his champion and restored the 8th City to its rightful place in the Heart of Heaven. Knowing no one else could bear the cost, Matt accepted. Thus Daredevil became Dizhong. Meanwhile, Dr. Doom strikes a private bargain with Loki. If Loki secures a place in the tournament and surrenders the prize of Shou Lao's chi, Doom will ensure his victory. In return, Doom offers Loki a phoenix feather, which is capable of rewriting destiny when combined with the right mediums. Though Invisible Woman was originally selected by the Vermilion Bird, Loki removes Invisible Woman from contention by deceiving the immortal beast, presenting her with a fake phoenix feather to garner her favor. Accepting his offer, she names Loki as her champion, unaware that the tournament has already been compromised. But Doom and Loki are not the only competitors with hidden agendas. Daredevil's patron Ying Long claimed that the endless war can be ended by freeing his master Chi-Yo, an ancient god of war, using the sword of Fu Shi. But the sword is broken and its fragments embedded within Lin Lie's arms. Even though Daredevil is skeptical of Ying Long's claim, he does not wish to fight Lin Lie. He remembers Danny Rand. He knows what the Iron Fist represents. But with innocent suffering, Matt believes hesitation is no longer an option. If peace demands betrayal, if salvation requires becoming the villain in someone else's story, then it's a burden he will carry, because that has always been Daredevil's way. As Heaven's champions were gathered, another cosmic player watched the budding tournament with interest. The Grand Master sent word to Shou Lao thanking him for delaying the tournament, as he would have been unable to attend due to events at one of the collector's facilities. He says that he has his own game planned soon and was worried the player he selected may not be able to participate due to injuries in Shou Lao's tournament, but fate had a way of sorting itself out. The final season of 2025 focuses on the events that the Grandmaster alluded to in his letter to Shou Lao, while also giving us more detail into the story behind the Elders of the Universe. We discover that in the aftermath of the time stream entanglement, not even the Elders of the Universe were unaffected, as they began reshaping reality itself. Several of them chose to merge their domains, such as the Collector's Gallery and the Grand Garden. This convergence created a cosmic playground where power, artifacts, and living histories collided under the Elder's watchful eyes. While surveying the newly merged realm, the Grandmaster discovered something that garnered his immediate attention in the Collector's Gallery, a contract bearing the unmistakable signature of Von Doom. Recognizing its potential as leverage against Doom for when he inevitably challenges the Elders of the Universe, the Grandmaster decided the safest way to acquire it was indirectly. Rather than challenge the Collector himself, he chose a proxy, and set his sights on a thief who had gained an intergalactic reputation as the best thief in the galaxy. And that thief was Remy LeBeau, also known as Gambit. Just before the time stream entanglement, Gambit and Rogue were in the middle of their wedding on Krakoa when the time storm tore the island from reality and flung it into the Rivals 2099 timeline, scattering their wedding rings across time itself in the process. Appearing before Gambit in his astral form, the Grandmaster offered him an offer he couldn't refuse: steal a single contract from the Collector, and in return, he would forge new wedding rings from a chronovium die and grant the couple a honeymoon in the Grand Garden. Knowing Rogue would never agree to such a deal, Gambit made the decision to hide this deal from her as he prepared for their intergalactic honeymoon. To help ensure his honeymoon went as planned and that he could ensure his final destination at the Grand Garden, he convinced the Quiet Council that their honeymoon could double as an outreach operation, planting Krakoan gateways across the stars to help lost mutants find refuge. With the Quiet Council's approval, the couple borrowed a ship from their friends at the Intergalactic Empire of Wakanda and began to travel the stars. As Gambit and Rogue traveled toward the Grand Garden, they made several stops across the cosmos, and eventually stopped in Nowhere, where Gambit quietly began investigating the contract's origins. While playing cards with Rocket Raccoon and a few unsavory patrons, Gambit learned that the Collector had acquired the contract from a mysterious red-skinned stranger, trading it for an unusual device described as a pile of tangled pipes. While Rocket had learned that Gambit struck a deal with an Elder of the Universe, expressing how that is just a bad idea in every way. Though as their conversation went on, the game quickly turned violent when a Badoon shot Rocket beneath the table, believing that him and Gambit had cheated. With no other choice, Gambit used the Chronovium cards given to him by the Grandmaster as a down payment to heal Rocket's wounds. In doing so, Gambit almost revealed a secret even he wasn't ready to tell Rocket. There was one more thing the Grandmaster had offered. Using the power Primordial, the Grandmaster repaired the damage to Gambit's brain, unlocking his Omega level potential and the ability to manipulate kinetic energy to increase cellular regeneration. Though as the dust would settle, Rocket would promise to keep Remy's secret, as the couple set off to their final destination. Elsewhere in the Rivals multiverse, Doom 2099 found himself haunted by something he had long believed lost forever. To obtain his immense power, Doom had sacrificed all memories from his past, but the time stream entanglement seemed to have fractured that sacrifice. Visions of a woman he could not identify began to plague him, stirring emotions he could no longer name but deeply felt. After exhausting every scientific and psychic method available, Doom turned to Chronovium, using it to search across timelines, and he eventually found her, the woman, tortured in a hellish realm, crying out for him to save her. In the shattered fragments of that vision, Doom glimpsed a contract bearing the name Cynthia. Tracing its location to the Collector's Gallery, Doom began preparing for how he would obtain it. Late at night, disguised in his Thieves Guild regalia, Gambit slipped away from their honeymoon suite to infiltrate the Collector's Gallery. But unknown to him, Rogue was never truly asleep, and she immediately sensed the betrayal. While Gambit carried out his heist in the shadows, the true game was being played on a much grander scale. The Grandmaster and the Collector, two elders of the universe, engaged in a formal cosmic contest to determine who would control their newly converged realm. As was their way, the stakes were not settled through negotiation, but through combat, with alternate versions of heroes summoned across time and space to fight on their behalf. However, the contest was never meant to reach its conclusion. Midway through the game, alarms blared within the Collector's Gallery, signaling a breach of security. Forced to abandon the board and rush to protect his collection, the Collector left the game unfinished. From afar, the Grandmaster could only smirk, satisfied that his distraction had worked perfectly, as the contest was merely a diversion, buying Gambit just enough time to slip into the gallery and steal what truly mattered. Angry that Remy had lied to Rogue, she grabbed his Chronovium die that he left on the counter with the intent to smash it into pieces to teach him a lesson. But when Rogue touched it, chronal energy surged through her body, amplifying her powers beyond anything she had ever experienced. Furious, she stormed off into the garden, ready to chase down Gambit and confront him, but all she found was Magneto. Sensing the disturbance, he attempted to calm Rogue, only to watch as her powers spiraled out of control. He attempted to contain her in a dome of any metallic structure he could swiftly employ, only to find even his control over magnetism was useless against the corrosive flow of time itself. The garden withered, gateways collapsed, and Rogue's fury reached a breaking point. With this newfound power and sudden realization of the danger Rogue presented, Magneto regretfully banished her from Krakoa until she had control, knowing that he could not allow her to return home because of the threat her temporal powers could cause. Rogue eventually confronted Gambit as he exited the gallery, demanding the truth he had denied her, and Gambit confessed to everything. He told her about the Grandmaster's deal, the stolen contract, the Chronovium die that was to become their wedding bands, everything. But worse still, he realized the contract he stole was a fake, and now he had two elders of the universe furious with him. They quickly realize the situation they are in and that they have nowhere to go, but they know they have each other. They decide that they're going to do the one thing they've always been good at, which is to run, but not before making one last trip to the Collector's Gallery. Though Gambit's initial attempt to steal the contract failed, the Collector's role in this game was finally revealed. Anticipating the Grandmaster's game, the Collector had sealed the real contract inside a Chronovium isolated cabinet, replacing it with a duplicate not long after the Grandmaster initially saw the contract in the gallery. But what the Collector didn't expect was the return of Gambit and Rogue's newfound power, allowing them to bypass the Chronovium protected cabinet and steal the real contract at last. Rather than risk a major incident with heroes and mutants currently within their realm and imprisoning the two thieves within his gallery, the Collector chose a more permanent solution, one that plays right into the Grandmaster's game. He unleashed two Earthbound operatives already under his employment to deal with the runaway newlyweds, a foul-mouthed mercenary and a deadly monster hunter. So there you have it, the complete story of Marvel Rivals in 2025. And if there's one thing Marvel Rivals has made clear, it's that every choice, every deal, and every sacrifice echoes far beyond a single season. The events and consequences of these stories aren't behind us. When a season ends, they're just beginning. If you like this video, be sure to like and subscribe for more content like this in the future. Let me know down in the comments below what your thoughts are of Rival's story in 2025, and what do you think the Dooms are collecting all these powerful chronal objects for? Lastly, thank you all for supporting this channel. Because all of you, I became a Marvel Rivals partner and Pathfinder in 2025, and this channel and our community has grown so much faster than I ever anticipated. I appreciate every single one of you, and I look forward to seeing our community grow in 2026 as we continue to dive into the world of Marvel Rivals. So like always, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you next time out there in the multiverse.